Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 489, and today we're doing Battle in a Ruthless Rumble. And so, again, as we say at the beginning of every best of 3 video, if you're wanting to see any of these decks individually, you can just scroll backwards through the channel. We've covered off on all of them at some point in recent memory in recent times. And if you're wanting to skip ahead to the gameplay, today we're going to play Darius, Gnar, Jax, Ornn, and Scouts. And so, with that out of the way, to kind of dive in to the current ideas on best of 3 and the way things have been evolving, I'm still carrying this idea that I hate in the sense that we're just going to try and play against Janna. It just feels like more and more of a mistake as time goes on. But it's also kind of one of these spaces as to where all of the decks I like to play kind of have a functional matchup against Janna. And that does kind of open us up to ban something else. But the thing that I'm starting to kind of take into mind and take into consideration with Nyla Janna is the Nyla Janna decks of the past were much more kind of like on the aggressive end of the spectrum. It's not entirely correct to call Nyla Janna an aggressive deck, but it was playing like the one-drop Brash guy. It was playing the Tide Maker, the Tide Winder. It had all of the kind of aggressively oriented elements to it. But now the way that the Nyla Janna decks have kind of started to evolve and react is to play the Sunken Temple and to play the Wizened Helmsman up in the expensive space, much more of a value-oriented style of a deck. And we're going to look to kind of take advantage of that and just, if your opponent wants to play a 5-mana do-nothing landmark, then hopefully you can end the game in the next turn or two, or you can ideally put them in these situations to where, say it's turn 6 and you want to play your Sunken Temple, but you have to spend a bunch of mana on like removal spells or adding a unit to the board, and it just kind of clogs up their hand and remains dead. And so I feel like with this space of Nyla Janna being the kind of focal point of the format, if you're bringing the idea of just ban it, congratulations, you're doing the right thing. But if you're trying to come out here and to just be in this wild camp of just leaving the deck up and trying to do your best against it, then you have to be either on the more aggressive end of the spectrum, or you have to be on the more controlling end of the spectrum, which we're not going to do. And so that's pushing us towards that more aggressive end of the spectrum. And so what you're going to kind of see across all of our lineups is, the way that we're going to try and punch through that is with width. With like scouts, that's the way scouts can get advantages over that, is the removal suite coming out of a deck like Nyla Janna is all direct damage like Mystic Shots, and so as you're adding units to the board like Mirai Wardens and Quins and Island Navigators, it takes a lot of removal to come in and deal with that. So that's kind of angle number one. And angle number two, out of the Freylord decks, we're going to look to just crash through hard and fast in the sense of using cards like Battle Fury, which they don't have answers to, using Wild Claw formation to turn a weaker improvised unit into the giant overwhelm unit, and try and get those big crashes in again before the opponent's able to react. And so we have been tinkering with the deck lists. We can pull them up and talk about them real quick. The Darius Gnar deck we haven't featured here in a while. The things I have to say about Darius Gnar is it's still okay to play Samira. I don't feel super comfortable playing 3 copies of Samira. That doesn't particularly excite me, but she is still a quite strong champion. If you get that kind of one strike in with Samira, then she gets to the reasonably costed flare, and she can come in and give you some of that interactivity that the deck needs. And then the flare can still be useful in terms of, say, activating Gnar and activating pirouettes. And so it's not like we're going like ham. We're not playing 3 copies of Samira, but if you're only playing 5 champions, I feel like she's a lot stronger than some of the other options in the format. And she does a little bit of that kind of unit and spell all kind of tied up into one package thing. And so we're playing her there. Otherwise, single copy of Bone Club. I love Bone Club in this deck, especially if you have these draws to where you play a 1-drop nothing on 2 and then you like turn into Bone Club on turn 3. It gives you a lot of flexibility with this style of deck. And otherwise, I think we're pretty straightforward here, adding in those 2 copies of Battle Fury, not playing any of the 4-cost units in here, no combat cooks or anything like that. So that is Darius Gnar. Up next with Jax Ornn, again another deck that we've come in and delivered a couple of edits to. I'm not like happy with Weaponsmith's Apprentice. I'm getting kind of borderline ready to just hard cut it. It's quite good if you have Jax ready on the second turn, but after that it's kind of fallen flat. And so I've cut it down to 2 copies. We fit in the copy of Bone Club with that addition. We've cut the Glacial Saurian down by a copy. and that's let us fit in a couple more of the flexible options in here, getting the extra copy of Entrancing Lure, and bringing back in Bellows Breath, which is quite good against the Janna decks. And so still quite happy with Jack's Ornn, but have been making some flex choices along the way. Last but not least, we're going to be playing Scouts, the deck that never dies, man. Going back to the Rising Tide, Scouts is still a thing, but my take on Scouts is you do want to have some amount of top end. Like, I don't like these versions that don't play Genevieve and don't play Scrutinizing Sergeant. They're just way too all in. You have to have some kind of value for the mid and late game, especially as, you know, you're not going to just play against the one matchup you want over and over and over again. As you move into making plays against other control decky kind of things, it's going to be very common in the open to just plan to ban Janna Nyla and then play control decks into the mid-rangey decks, and so it's very important to have access to that Scrutinizing Sergeant and Genevieve. And here, the thing you don't always see is the Scholarly Pioneer. I think as we come up to the open, the big thing you're going to see out of the don't ban Janna decks is going to be the inclusions of lots of Explorers. The Sunken Temple is quite a big play. And playing a mediocre unit and then trading your 2 mana for their 5 mana is a fairly big deal. And so we aren't playing blocking Badger Bears here. We have the Scholarly Pioneer to give us access to that Explorer. Otherwise, the only thing I include in here is a little bit of that bust flavor with the single copy of Cataclysm. It works fantastically with all of our Scouts as kind of a sort of pseudo rally, if you will, while still providing an interactive element to the deck. And so that is it. That's what we're going to be doing battle with today. I forgot to check in on the pay-to-win price, but I'm willing to bet we're completely paid up. And so these are decks that we play a lot, and so I think it'll probably be fine. And so let's head on in. As I meant to mention earlier, with these, we either play 2 or 3 matches. Playing the full gauntlet just takes too long. I don't want to try and make a 2.5, 3 hour video. And so if we go 0-2, we go 0-2. That's a sad day, but otherwise we'll get in 3 matches and then we'll call it a day. Only take up about an hour of your time. And so I'm interested in what's happening in the Mastering Runeterra event, the Gregory the Grey event, the Duck Cup, I believe they called it. I didn't get to participate. I got an appointment for a COVID shot, flu shot today, and so my 5G levels are off the charts, but my ability to play in those events was unfortunately removed. And so I'm curious to see how that goes. It will do a lot of shaping up the meta. I'm curious to see how much Nyla Janna is running around in that event. And if we find ourselves having to be, we should realistically probably just take Scouts out of this lineup and put Nyla Janna in. The matchups like we're playing into it just aren't that great anyways. And I kind of like the idea of banning out Darius Gnar if it turns up, but I love playing it, but I can't bring myself to just quite pull the trigger. But with this, with the inclusion of Scouts, I kind of feel the need to ban out Sea Monsters. It's a fairly unwinnable matchup from the Scouts' perspective. The other kind of bummer is Akshan Varus is fairly decent against Scouts, but I think on the whole, Akshan Varus is a very beatable deck, especially when you have a lot of Freylord on the other end with the handful of stuns and flash freezes coming out of it. So we'll take the Sea Monsters out. We'll kick things off with Scouts. I'm fine to play the mirror match, and it is one of these decks to where it's, you know, kind of painful against Akshan in the sense of the bruiser decks of old. You know, the kind of way that used to come in and counter Scouts was with like Pantheon decks and Varus decks, but I don't think the Akshan Varus now is as bad as it was in the past, since there's been a handful of nerfs across all of the cultists, and so we'll see how it goes. All right, but coming in here, the old Scouts mirror match. Man, we got all the arcade skins, the arcade board. He's just coming out here with the naked set. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as something that's going to feel good for his team, you know? But reasonable enough early game start with the Broadwing and the Mirai Warden gives us a little bit of interactivity. Gonna try and dig up some of our higher powered plays, such as Misfortune. Welcome to the board. So it would be nice to have a way to protect her here in the mirror match. We'll see if something shows up along the way, but kind of sucks to have your Misfortune come down on 3 and then just get popped on turn 4. Alright, he gets a Durandi Sculptor. We're going to make the high-powered play here. Interested to see what he has. If he wants to play his Misfortune, she gets zinged by ours because she's going to deal that extra point of damage. He might be in the spot where he just can't play anything here, and that feels pretty bad. And so we'll see how it goes. I'm not the hugest fan of Durandi Sculptor in this deck. Like, I get it. It's one of those deals is if you look at the hand, you get so many additional stats out of our Wardens and Navigators and Quins. Like, all of these units are going to be getting the bonus stat. But, holy shit, he's going ham on this Durandi Sculptor. Okay. Well, I'm curious what's in tow for our Misfortune here. She should be fairly safe. He needs, like, specifically a Broadwing into another unit to be able to come in and attack her here. No, not impossible, but it is kind of hard to do. He's going to be doing it, isn't he? It's gonna come in. We'll just announce to the world that our Misfortune is going to fall. But I wanted to see if we couldn't get a better block on some of these other units.
Needs a finishing touch.
Interesting attack with the Sculptor. I'm fine to just go ahead and get out in front of it. I would like to get this unit off of the board. It's being a little annoying out here. So we'll get our Quinn down so she can see these additional attacks. We can hook in the Sculptor if we want to.
Nothing gets between me and my mark.
We'll find our enemies wherever they hide.
But no issues keeping the board full. We should be able to develop into Vanguard Sergeant for our next attack. It's going to be a champion strength, really? Okay. So we're going to lose a handful of units, but I think it's okay otherwise. Even want to bother. Like, the scout units are so strong. As we roll into this next turn, I'm thinking that we're just going to take it. It's going to be turn 7 on our next attack token, so we can play Island Navigator and 4 Demacia in the same turn. And I kind of like the idea of just building up this board of completely full of scouts before we play our 4 Demacia. He's going to hit Misfortune, isn't he? Oh my god.
A slight adjustment.
It's okay. It's a little frustrating, though. And of course, we hit the Watchful Idol. Just a comedy of errors. This game is trying to be. Oh my god. All right. Well, Island Navigator gets the free block. We'll throw the Mirai Warden in front of the strongest thing that it can see. Fall to 2. Oh no, are we going to be a mana short? Did I math that wrong? As usual? This is kind of messed up anyways in the sense that the Watchful Idol's stuck on the board and then it's going to generate a spawn. And if we play the Vanguard Sergeant, then next turn we can't get the complete package going. Oh, there's just nothing going right this game. Probably should have just added that Broadwing. Alright. Like, add the Broadwing last turn and then play the Vanguard Sergeant this turn. Alright, Gwen is in. And so this is one of these spots to where we can lead off with a normal attack and then Cataclysm a scout unit and then attack again. I think that's where we want to be with this. Just try and get maximum usage out of these stats this turn. He doesn't have any good blocks on our units right now as it is. And then if he lets any of our scouts through, they're just kind of free to attack again after this. And so I think this is fine.
Got him to model for me? You're easy to track. That's far enough. enough.
Need repairs?
All right. Got rid of most of them. Now we're going to Cataclysm this Island Navigator into Misfortune. Boop. And then we'll send in another attack. Should be enough to get the full clear on this board. We're pretty close to it, I guess. The only block on the pet would be Gwen. He doesn't have anything that can kill a Vanguard Sergeant. Out of mana at this point. The next turn, regardless of if he trades with the Tentacle, we'll be getting a fresh Tentacle back. And so, feels like a nice board for us. That was a very strong Cataclysm.
Demacia needs heroes.
So now I think we just kind of need to not die, right? And so let's add an Island Navigator so we can get a couple blockers on board. And then hopefully we'll just be ready with the second Vanguard Sergeant next turn. That was a shitty hit. The Elegant Edge was fucking painful. And a Quinn Bird. Okay.
It's our time to shine.
Oh, we're just dead, aren't we? We this Watchful Idol. God damn it. Well, maybe he'll do something dumb, right? you can always leave that one on the table. If we get an opportunity to win one of these attacks, and then we can play Island Navigator and have enough blockers out here.
I protect my own.
Not quite certain how this lines up. It looks like it's still going to be 1 unit short, but you know, sometimes that's what you need. God, what a savage turn. Everything. I'm glad we'll just get that one out of our system, okay? Like, I guess that's kind of what we get for talking trash about Durandi Sculptor. I still contend that it's not that great of a card. It's just the problem you kind of run into with the Durandi Sculptor kind of cards is you run into a lot of draws to where it just doesn't do anything. Like, you need all of your cards to be active early and doing stuff, and you run into these draws to where you mulligan and you're like, okay, I got a Shell Shocker into a Durand Sculptor, and then opponent plays Merriam, and you just can't do anything. And then you roll into the third turn and you're like, oh, cool, so I can play a Mirai Warden and another 1-drop, and I'm still just shut down by this Merriam and a single removal spell. And so, like, I really like having this space just be taken up by active units like the Scholarly Pioneer, because it just doesn't get hard shut down by stuff like that. Now here, we're just going to mulligan for earlier plays. The Scholarly Pioneer can be quite clutch in this match, right? If your opponent's trying to OTK you with a Varus, you do have the ability to take the Overwhelm away from him. So just another space to where the Scholarly Pioneer can do quite a bit of work. Let's see who comes down. Akshan hits the board. We'll want to try and Broadwing him away next turn. Sure. And there's not too many other early plays that come out of this deck. Like, sometimes they'll have the... I think we just want a Vanguard Sergeant here, but sometimes they'll have, like, the 1-3. I was trying to decide if we want to add in a Mirai Warden, which I think we're just trying to be effective with our mana at this point. Alright, take the hook. He's been removed from the board. Let's see if we can't just go wide real fast on him now.
We're not taking it. We're taking it back.
So we're going to go Broadwing, Broadwing. We'll add Scrutinizing Sergeant next turn. Maybe we'll see what it feels like. Maybe we'll hit a Misfortune, just as our this is our previous opponent did. Get the high roll there. Maybe it'll happen. I was trying to think, like, what happens if we miss Misfortune? Like, taking a peek at our hand, we have already picked up, like, the Vanguard Sergeants. That's the kind of next strongest hit in there. But the Scholarly Pioneer isn't horrible here. I wouldn't be completely upset to see him turn up. Would rather have Misfortune, but, you know, it's not that crazy.
I protect my own.
All right, let's just protect our health. Gotta get these dum-dums out of here. We're not gonna have any combat tricks to try and fight through it. Sergeants should still be good, though. All right, no misfortunes to be found, so we'll just take the Width and the Mirai Warden. I saw this Voidling come in, and I was like, oh boy, we just hit another complete miss on our units, but not the case.
Scores to settle, cooks to kill. You know how it is.
I've got this.
Would have been a lot cooler if we had Misfortune, though. It's kind of scary having these attacks roll through as the Furious Wielder. Okay. I was going to say, we still have to worry about stuff like Quicksand happening, but didn't quite hit there. Alright, Akshan's ready to fight. So what's going to go down? So the next turn, I do want to play for Demacia, so on turn 8, we can just try and lead off with the Champion's Strength. And so we can kind of play around Rite of Negations that way. The thing that kind of worries me with this turn is if we add in Gwen and then she just gets blasted by a grappling hook. That kind of sucks, but I think it's going to be manageable. And we want these scouts on the board so we can hopefully attack multiple times with our 4 Demacia stats. And grappling hook. Yep.
Everyone should have a grappling hook.
Varus is pretty close to flipping, but his hand is pretty limited in size. Probably take the draw 2 off of the Sentinel's Horde and be right back in action, though. Are you still here? I did run into... I've had this patch be very choppy. I'll find a lot of spots in the middle of the games where I'll put a card into the middle, and then it just freezes for like 10 seconds, and it's a bit worrisome. You know, it doesn't feel good to see that action roll through, and so curious if that's happened to the opponent there. We're just sitting there waiting. Interesting though, he went for the +2/+2 spell shield and didn't go for the card draw. Very real chance that we can just pull off a lethal on this turn. Shell Shocker was a very strong draw. Lets us get that additional unit on the board and still play for Demacia.
Cool eye back.
You like it?
All right, gotta assume this is going to be a Rite of Negation in hand, but that's okay. Like, what's his Varus really supposed to do with being the only card? And so I think that's fine. He only has 3 blockers now, so we're good to go. All right, I'm just gonna put him in. You know, I had to stop and check the mathematics real quick on that. We're fine. We're fine. The 3 smallest ones will hit for 15.
I know what we are.
right. Game 3 coming up. If we find ourselves getting salty, it's probably just the COVID rolling through me, okay? Not the disease, just the vaccine. Ooh. If you're into that kind of thing, you can still get free COVID tests as well. They canceled, at least in America. Out here in the Americas, you can do it. They canceled the program last year, I guess, and now it's back again. You can get 4 tests for free. We had to buy some like a month ago, and it's like fucking $25 a box or something. They're so expensive, and so it was nice that they brought the program back and didn't have to spend all that money again. But all right, as far as this goes, I would like to find a 1-drop here. I'm just going to go ahead and take the full mulligan, even though we have the Tusk Speaker. It's kind of one of these spots to where we want to find a 1. And even if we don't, we have a very high chance of finding a 1 or a 2. Now, this mulligan makes me look like a dum-dum in the sense that we just completely missed all the way across the board. That's going to be a disaster if we don't hit on this next turn. But that's a lot of draws, right? We have 9 1-drops and 7 2-drops, and so a lot of opportunities to actually hit in there. All right, the Forgotten Champion, the Samira, ready to come back. I'll take whatever spell you have. If he has the quicksand, or the 1-mana quicksand thing, then, you know, whatever. But got that cheapo flare now. You all remember playing this card? Is that a thing that you have memories of doing? Playing flares and Samiras and the like? Ooh, it's been a while. It's been a while. Oh, got a cat that wants to hang out. Alright, so this is going to be a pretty strong Sky Shaper. Alright, Sumi's going to attack. We'll Sky Split onto Samira. Get those big bonus stats up to 3-5. Take down the Akshan. And then we'll take the damage from the Bakai. We can look to get the free flare next turn. See if we can't just Samira hook into the Bakai and allow our Tusk Speakers to battle trade free. But this is what they did with Samira, right? They're saying, okay, Samira's released. She's too good. We'll nerf her a little bit. We'll see how that goes. The nerf rolls through. Samira's still way on top, but they're going to release Soul Fighter and they want to sell all the skins. And so, so they can't bring any nerfs to Samira. Now that the Sky Knight set, whatever it's called, has been released, they can say, okay, the Samira skins are the old thing. We can properly nerf her down to oblivion with the 2-mana flare, and then we'll wait until next patch to bring the heat on Janna. You gotta let people buy those Coven skins for Halloween. So this is still a pretty fair attack. If he's got the -2 attack quicksand thing to take down the Samira, fine. Otherwise, you just gotta feel like we're really running away with this game. Maybe we'll even Bone Club a Samira today. Who knows? Feeling cute, Bone Clubbed my Samira. Gotta check. It feels like we've played a lot of cards. You gotta check and see if she's about to flip or anything. Not quite. Let's see, we have a couple of options here in the sense of, do we want to protect this Tusk Speaker with the Sky Splitter? And I'm not really interested. It's like we're so close to popping off with a Darius attack next turn that, sure, that I like having all of these overwhelms on the board so that, you know, he's pretty guaranteed to flip at this point. Very strong board. Limited superstar Iron Ballista making the comeback. Give this guy a siege is easy if you've got the tools. The breakers bring him out and the ballistae bring him down. Siege engineer. It's kind of, the siege engineer probably hangs out with Twisted Fate, you know? You're getting together, you're coming up with names for each other. You don't want to be Steve and Rick anymore. It's Twisted Fate and Siege Engineer. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. All right, what's happening? He's gonna need a quicksand onto the Darius, and then can kind of freely block him and not take overwhelm damage. Otherwise, what's this gonna be? It's gonna be a strike onto our 4/3. So Darius will hit for the 6 damage and not flip. Okay, that's fine. I think we're still pretty far away from getting OTK'd. And this is one of the kind of interesting spaces as to where if opponent does want to try and OTK us next turn, it's probably going to involve Varus and another Varus in hand and trying to singularly target down one unit. And I mean, we can't just like Bone Club Darius and say, well, you can attack, but you have to go through 12 points of toughness to try and deal the damage. So it might be a little greedy. I would rather spread out our damages here between the Ruthless Raider with the Bone Club as opposed to this super tall Darius. We'll see what plays out. Gotta see if Siege Engineer is talking on this guy.
Fight or die.
We deliver their end.
Okay. See how this goes. It can still be scary. Like a grappling hook is going to look pretty problematic on this turn. But we don't have the mana to fight through it. And so if he has the targets already. Now if he has the grappling hook to shoot down one of our big boys, that is an issue, but he didn't hit any bonus attacks there. So, whew. Victory unlocked 2-0-ing the Akshan Varus. Feels good. Lucky for the viewer out there, you're now guaranteed a third match. And all right, old Gucci flak jacket. And so, as far as these matches go, I'm never certain how bad this like Gwen Vayne matchup is. It's one of these decks to me that feels like very polarized. Like you'll have a lot of these draws to where you just pop off with a Vayne and Tumbles and Gwens and Cataclysms, and then it feels like you have other games to where you draw your deck in the wrong order, and you've just played like 2 Hallowed units and a Hate Spike and a Combat Trick, and your deck just does fuck all. And so I feel kind of okay leaving it up. It seems, you know, manageable, and I think this is a spot to where I'm fine to play Scouts again, and we're probably just back to banning out Darius Gnar. And so it is the one that gives me a little bit of pause in the sense that it's like, well, we could just end up mirrors on mirrors with the Darius Gnars looking at each other and then the Quens looking at each other. But I just feel like it's all of these matchups are kind of fairly even, and then this is just the worst deck out of all of the matches. And we do have like a handful of good answers to it, right? A lot of the high-powered plays that come out of this, if you're attacking with an 8-power Gwen and you flash freezer, or if you get a stun on her with pirouette or something, then it really cuts down a lot of what she's capable of doing. All right, though. I need to take a closer look at the matchup tables for sure, though. All right, reasonable start, though. We did get the Apprentice into Jax. I'm kind of tempted to hang on to the Fish fight as well, just given that like a lot of the cards in this deck are just super high-powered and a lot of them are crap, right? And so I kind of feel like, you know, we're going to have the Apprentice into Jax. That's going to give us a 4-powered Jax that we can then look to to fish fight into a Gwen. And I feel like as long as we've got the Gwen kind of contained, then we don't worry about what they're able to do nearly as much. I threw out a nice little cupcake, I forgot. Gucci Flak Jacket, I don't know him personally or anything, but he does tend to play a lot while I'm at the gym. So like when I'm at the gym playing on the old exercise bike, a lot of times you have to spend a lot of time in the queue, and I run into him quite a bit. And he tends to just play aggro decks all the time, which is noble. Right? That's something that's honorable, something that we should all be doing. But here, I'm trying to think if there's a real strong way for him to interact. I don't want to have our jacks get popped by a hate spike. We have lots of ways around it in our hand, and then it's like if we just play the Castaway, there's a couple of problems. There's a lot of equipment that just aren't very good at this point, right? So if we add the Castaway and then I'm just kind of ready for that Jax to die now. But it's like if we add the Castaway and we hit like Tough or Shepherd's Authority or these Pot of Pains and stuff, it's just a lot of things that don't promote good combats. I guess those weren't the greatest examples, but say we get offered up like Scout Rake and we get offered up a...
Demons walk among us, masquerade.
if we see like a Scout Rake and then we get offered up the thing that gives like Tough, right, then we just can't even attack into these units and we've lost the protection for our jacks. So we'll see how this goes. I'd like to get into combat with Vayne, but I don't feel like we need to remove Vayne. Our removal in this is very limited, and I would like to save this fish fight for a Gwen. Alright, Innovative Blacksmith coming in. The Pot of Pain... Well, we can do this, right? It's like, I don't really want the Pot of Pain. We can play the combat reel, and then we can time in dedication, and then we can attack and get the mana back. It's like, I have such a hard time getting into these spots and then being like, ooh, I don't want to lose a point of mana. better take my values where I can get it. So what do we got? He hits a combat reel as well. I'll just go ahead and swing in with this Jax. We've got another one in hand. And so I'm curious to see how willing he is to get into combat. And so like we can spend our Sky Splitter to take down the combat cook, let this Jax die. And then we have a different Jax to play for a couple of turns from now. He'll be ripe and ready to flip on this next attack as well. It's a big Vayne. Surprised he didn't tumble her. I guess like it's not too threatening in terms of, it's just going to get blocked by the apprentice. This is fine, right? We're just going to outwit them here. All right, well, can't fall to just 3, and so I'm not amped about sending any of these other blocks in. We'll just go ahead and drop the apprentice here. We could have potentially looked to have used, say, like the Innovative Blacksmith and the Sky Splitter to try and get in front of Vayne, but I don't know, I'm just not amped about that. It's going to be a Cataclysm coming in now. It's like all this kind of sucks, but he's not really doing anything to add to the board. I mean, do we even have to take this Vayne out? I guess I don't really want him generating more Vaynes, but like, how does the game even end up sequencing like this? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there were more Vaynes in hand and he just doesn't have a play. I think we can just like wait and attack into her next turn. So let's do this. Let's just drop the Light of Acacia onto the Artisan so we have a quick attacking attacker next turn. And then I don't plan on getting too involved with this board. I mean, it's just my concern is like we play Fish Fight on Vayne and he just says cool and plays another Vayne. Like, that's not a very good turn for us. Sorry on into Jax is kind of interesting. You have to give credit where it's due. It's an interesting collection of mana spend for us. So how bad is this if he tumbles the Eternal Dancers? His units all suck this game, right? And so the Eternal Dancers can get like little big. They'll get bonus 1 Hallowed, whatever, but then it's not bringing back a good unit. It's just bringing back like a Boisterous Host or some shit. This does not look like a good tumble, just directly into the Saurion. I guess Combat Cook was a little bigger than I gave it credit for, but I don't think we need to block at this space. Like, I don't want to fall to like 4 to where we're starting to fall to where we're starting to fall to like Gwen attacks. Like, he attacks with Gwen, we block, and then he attacks with Gwen again, and we just die to the snip snips. Alright, well, here comes the squad. Lots of Overwhelm coming in. Hopefully no hate spikes in sight. One can dream, you know. Not enough. GG. Right. And so I feel like that game kind of sums up what I was saying about Gwen Vayne. Is that, you know, it really has very high-powered draws, but there's no denying that wasn't one of them, right? I think I was, you know, the way with it paced out, I was probably wrong in the sense that he didn't have the multiple Vaynes in hand. Like, he on that big Vayne turn, he probably would have just played the removal spell, the Vayne Cataclysm, whatever that's called. It's not Cataclysm, it's something like that though. And so that's what it is. But here I wanted to look for our better like combat on their own early game plays. So we want things like Mirai Wardens to allow for 2-for-1s. We like things like Petricide Broadwing that can get 2-for-1s in on some of these blocks. Just swapping out Fleet Feather Trackers for the opponent's Fleet Feather Tracker doesn't feel like a very good deal. We want to be getting 2-for-1s where we can, and so we'll go ahead and take this one. We'll let the tracker stay at home. The opponent has Durandi Sculptors or whatever we're busy talking trash about today. We can get a little bit more involved in combat, but right now this is fine. Everybody's getting their pocket picker. All right, let's send them in. No misfortune from the opponent. It's always kind of nice. Nice for us. not as nice for the opponent.
Dangerous water.
And now Gwen turns up. Oh my gosh, and he spikes an Omen Hawk. Must feel good. The thing with Gwen is we want to have 2 mana for her next turn, right? We want to be able to start making attacks with the Gwen Bird along with the form up. I don't think that, you know, we're really going to be going out the gates next turn. We could play Mirai Warden into Champion Strength. That just doesn't strike me as very good. I think we want to get the Warden on board. And then next turn we'll try and play Gwen and then use the form up to get some better attacks here.
I got this. Not today.
Okay. Genevieve.
We Demacians
Cool.
are no easy prey.
So here's our bird. Again, I'd like to get 2 attacks out of this. We should definitely be getting, you know, multiple attacks out of Gwen in this space.
Nothing gets between
But
me and my mark.
We find our enemies wherever they hide.
Let's see.
Still heart, steady aim.
So we can lead off with this one. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have attacked with Gwen here. I got excited about what was happening. I guess it's okay in the sense that what I'm kind of looking at is we're going to be trading out the Valor this turn. We're going to send Valor into the Island Navigator after this. He can just block Gwen with the Island Navigator, but the kind of side thing to that is we get additional hooks in the sense that, well, we can just hook the Navigator with the Fleet Feather Tracker afterwards. But I want to take his scout units away before he gets the chance to get the initiative on us. If he's going to start dropping unit boosters on his turn, I want our units to be a little bit safer.
The ocean charts our course.
I'm wanting to build into this champion strength next turn. I was curious if there was going to be... Oh my god, that was the collection of Omen Hawked cards?
Scouting ahead.
Gotta be kidding.
You're easy to track.
Well, this should technically be kind of free, right? If he's just going to hook our Gwen with the Broadwing. I was going to say, if he has a form up, this has the possibility to suck. And then also... The other kind of downside to that is the Broadwing just gets the free hook into Gwen at that point. Boy.
Stay back. My life for these lands.
That was a pretty good Omen Hawk. pretty good Omen Hawk. Alright. RN Jesus was not with us in this one. We only get to add 1 card at this point. Okay. Still got 3 cards in hand as well. Whew. Getting savaged. It's wild how much of a difference those can make. Like, I don't know if that block onto Gwen was particularly ideal. Like, we probably should have just taken the damage there. Like, we got steamrolled because we got involved in that combat, but I'm not certain how much more we would have been able to get on board at that point. So that was tough. All right, moving on. This is another one to where, like, Fleet Feather Tracker is kind of awkward. I am fine to use Fleet Feather Tracker to take down Redeemed Prodigy, but there's no real guarantees that they even play Redeemed Prodigy. That's one of the cards that you don't always see, and it's also like the only card that it's the only card that we really want to be trading with. So we'll see how he works out. But no reason to come in and trade with this Boisterous Host. We'll start getting some better combats on the upcoming turns here. We'll definitely be adding Misfortune next turn, but I want to lead off with the Pioneer. I don't think we want equipment. There is a couple of options with this, right? Landmark can hit the Hallowed Generator unit thing, the Opulent Foyer. Explorer's Blunder can be useful in the face of Gwen. I just feel like, or Gwen, right? You can take away her quick attack. I just kind of feel like our units aren't going to be big enough to deal with a quick attacking Gwen anyways. So I'm just going to take the Landmark thing. There is, a reasonable chance that it just doesn't do anything, which would be unfortunate. But we could have picked the life gain or the quick attack, and they would almost certainly have an opportunity to shine. But I feel like this is like the highest reward one out of them. Like, there's a good chance that we can just kind of win this game anyways if we don't use the Landmark, but things can be a lot more challenging in the face of an Opulent Foyer. See, this has got to be a hate spike. If this Misfortune survives, this game's done. Like, it feels very much like he's got a +2/+2 in hand. That was a very suspicious Vayne attack on the last turn. I don't feel like that's just a bluff. And so I would suspect that she's got some kind of way. All right, well, we can safely remove her now. Do we ever champion Strength next turn? I think that's probably a little suspicious. Oh man, we we could have even gotten the equipment off of this thing. I wonder if we just picked the worst options available. Wouldn't be the first time. Wouldn't be the last. Alright, we can still have a pretty strong round on this turn. We'll add in Gwen. Try and take the hook into this bigger unit. I mean, I guess there is a reasonable thought in the terms of, like, what if he just passes here? If he just passes, we can pass it back and try and champion Strength next turn. That sounds pretty huge to me. Otherwise, like, trading Valor into the Combat Cook and then following up with Shell Shocker is fine. If we want to just go, like, ham this turn, we can make some kind of scout attack, then play Shell Shocker, then play the Blinding Assault. But I don't think that's quite necessary. What I'm looking is I'd like to take this unit off of the board. I'm going to send our Broadwing into the 2/1. Just remove the other unit without having our stuff die and get the tick up on Gwen. And then next turn we're going to champion Strength. Or Explorer's Excavation. You were meant to do so much, and it just didn't come together. That's okay. Right, misfortune should this party want to continue into the next turn.
We each died, then found home.
All right. Units are now bigger than your units. I did the mathematics on that one.
Still heart, steady aim.
All right. GG 'em. Feels good. On to the next one, the final battle
We're safe.
for the viewers involved. See what we can do. Oof! Give me them trophies. Keep me out of the space of keep me out of the space of the gauntlets next week. Let's see. As far as these go, like, it's one of these spots where it's like, I don't know, we're trying to be good against Janna, but what's going to happen in this space? He's probably just going to ban out scouts, and then we have the Jax Ornn onto the Darius Gnar matches. Which in this space, I've still just kind of found myself wanting to ban out Darius Gnar. I know that it's just like this is the lineup I feel like we should realistically be bringing. And I'm not like completely opposed to just cutting out something like Darius Gnar and playing Janna Teemo instead, but it feels like we're just not doing things right by not playing Janna. I've tried so hard to get the Teemo decks going in terms of like Teemo Sejuani and trying to. The new thing I started trying to brew is using Teemo with the Sunken Temples and Janna's. And then having the Puff Cap package going, because it feels like a lot of the problem you run into with that deck is just running out of stuff to do. And the Temple, kind of fixes the problem, but I wasn't pleased with what was happening there either. All right, though, taking all that time, bringing the finest of bands, removing scouts. You got it. So let's kick things off with Jax Ornn. Is he even here? There he goes. Clicked the button and said, "I gotta take a pee. I gotta battle hard against FTP Bust. I gotta go make a tinkle." I'm sure that's what opponent was saying. All right. Heavy Omen Hawk start. Always kind of nice to kick off with the Omen Hawks against Teemo Janna. It feels so bad from the Teemo Janna aspect to have your turn 1 Acorn just get popped by an Omen Hawk, since you don't get the value out of your neg attack stuff, and we still get the bonus stats to our units. So we'll see if that's what comes to matter in this game. And I'm just going to go ahead and open. If the common play here is going to be like a Maryam, and Maryam shuts down everything we're trying to do. So we'll take that point while we can. If he doesn't have it, great. But I think most of the time we get shut down on an attack here. And it's also kind of interesting in the sense that maybe we just want to play Omen Hawk again. I really love stacking the +2/+2s as opposed to a +1 and then a +2 and then a +1. So we drew Harsh Winds this turn. So we know that this Omen Hawk is going to apply to the next 2 units on top of our deck. And so we'll have the double boosted units instead of the kind of spread out stats.
I answered.
The way we want to approach this, like we can play Omen Hawk next turn. I think we do. And then we'll see if we draw, like if we draw the unit, maybe we'll get to add it to the board. Nope. It's going to be a while before we add that Ornn to the board. But we can still move and shake with what we have here. So nothing defensive for the innovative blacksmith in terms of giving bonus health. I would have loved to have gotten her up to 3 health here with a pot of pain or with a tough thing or whatever, but this is still okay. It's going to allow her to attack this next turn. Still collect some forges while we're at it. And the meaty Omen Hawk.
You can fix anything with anything.
All right, then we'll take the pot of pain here. Make sure the castaway's strong. We maybe should have, you know, picked a better equipment with Ornn in mind, right? We would prefer to have our Ornn overwhelming as he gets the chance, but it's these spaces feel fine. If we get to attack and then he blocks and we get a trade, these spaces feel pretty bad when we add our big equipment due to the board and then he, excuse me, then he drops just a mystic shot.
And know you have my favor.
So I'm still going to swing directly into Janna. She does have the good block onto the innovative blacksmith. This is not a very confident block from most opponents. Losing your Janna here feels pretty bad, and so I feel like if he has the +2/+2 card, he'll just snap it forward. But a lot of times, I think we're going to get this damage in. It says, "I call your bust, bluff. You were too confident. You were too confident in your bluff." No, I'll just say he's probably got a +2/+2 in hand, is my guess. But that's okay. We can still move this equipment out and about and around, and still a valuable equipment to have. Turn these Omen Hawks into 3-power quick attackers is not terrible.
Storm unrelenting.
Ooh, the Bellows Breath turns up. Okay, that's another way to get the Janna off the board. She did get the draws for the turn, but see if we can't get a nice clear. It's like if he starts dropping Windborn Mariners and stuff, then we might get a big go at it.
More of an all-purpose tool, really.
Together we shall watch over those who need us.
All right, and that's where I'm gonna stop. You know, at a certain point, they just kind of run out of stuff to do, and so I feel like this is at least a safe space to. We get all of the quick attack units. We weaken up his other 2, and then our castaway survives. Looked like he might have had the 3 damage burn spell in hand. If you're not familiar with this. If you kill the unit, the AoE still happens, and so the Omen Hawk would die. We would not get the forge onto the Fix'em 5000, but we do still get the AoE damage across the board. So it loses Janna and his quick attackers. We'll lose our Omen Hawks.
Swept into the cyclone's fury. A final breath.
But most importantly, we got that Janna out of here. Let's just prevent the damage. I'd like to, you know, we need to make it to turn 8 to get this this Ornn on board, and there's no real guarantees that this Ornn's even gonna be close to finishing the game. We haven't got that 8-power attack in on his first attack. He's not gonna have the ram to go with him, so
I will tell you.
kind of a bummer. No 3 damage, please. You already played 1 3 damage. No second one, please. We could have gone with the Pot of Pain here to be a little bit safer, but the Pot of Pain's just like such a bad equipment at this point. I mean, maybe we should have just done it so that the Artisan has 5 health and doesn't die to all of their removal spells, but... Oh, sometimes the greed monster takes over. So expectations aren't too high with this. I would, you know, Miriam probably just take the block. But ooh, so painful. He's got 5 cards in hand again. It's like it's so wild what Janna's able to do in terms of drawing all these things. All right, getting them close. Again, I know we had the opportunity to take Scout, passed up on it, so Ornn doesn't have access to that. We did pass up on the chance to take, or we didn't see Overwhelm at any point, but you know, we would never saw spaces to where we were going to have good Scout attacks, and we would have taken a lot more damage this game if we hadn't taken the equipment that we took. And so it's a little damned if you do, damned if you don't, but you know, it's better to have a fighting chance in the late game as opposed to just being dead.
May your blessings upon me ease the pain of others.
Feel the breeze and
Janna
know
number
you
2.
have my favor. The zephyr heralds the squall.
Interesting. And so I mean, what I kind of expect with this turn, I'm gonna fish fight the Janna. Just go ahead and try and deal with this. But what I kind of expect for the turn is playing Harsh Winds here, and then we'll try and play Ornn next turn. I was kind of hoping, you know, if we picked up an improvised unit, then we had a pretty good shot to hit one of those big Ornn targets, or if we hit a Jax. Jax might be flipped at this point. No, he's only at 11-16. But we had a couple of opportunities out there. Oh my god, that's savage. Probably just dead at this point, because we were taking the opportunity to get Janna off of the board at the expense of losing our unit to the Broadwing. Now just gonna get blasted. Maybe we should have popped Teemo, but with the immediate damage off of the Miriam. So, I mean, the next thing that we need to kind of have happen well here is we do have this chance to add Ornn. You know, maybe we'll get to play Buried in Ice. Probably not. I mean, maybe that's just what we should have built towards there. We could have let the Harsh Winds through and then tried to Buried in Ice on this turn. I don't know, that doesn't sound great. Yep, Buried in Ice would have been pretty good on this turn. But, I mean, we wouldn't have had any board, and so it wouldn't have had the chance to like, what are you going to do in that turn? It's like you have the choice to play Buried in Ice or play Ornn. Well, I mean, I guess you can still just clear out the board, but it doesn't do the effect that we really want or need it to do. Ugh. I finally just made the decision. I finally decided we're just gonna ban Janna at this event. It's like I think the space that we'll have to kind of take, and I think what's probably pretty reasonable, is our lineup still has like a lot of problems with stuff like Shen Jarvan, which I'll never take to an event like this. It has problems with stuff like Ashe LeBlanc, which is, you know, a reasonable option, but not something that I really want to bring to this event. We brought it to the last one. I don't want to bring it to this one. But I think if we run into the space to where one of those decks pops up, like I'm almost more interested in just having to deal with that as opposed to play Janna all day. It's like I know this is like the second video I've said it to where the plan needs to be just to come out and ban Janna, and I couldn't quite bring myself to pull the trigger on it, but I think I've finally had enough. I think I can finally do it.
Here, let me see that.
Sometimes you just gotta say enough's enough, you know? And so we'll see. I should probably just be bringing the Janna deck as well. Maybe I'm not opposed to not bringing it since it does get hard targeted, but I don't worry about the stuff that's targeting it right now. Like I've been playing all these kind of like soft target decks against it and just don't feel good at any point. But I'm curious if there isn't some kind of just like ridiculous control package out there that's able to do better against it. But my stance with playing control decks against Janna has always been like, do you really want to play against this deck that's capable of, you know, drawing like 16 cards in a game? And it's like time and time again you see these spaces to where you start getting into battle with Janna, and then it's like they have one card in hand, and then you scroll to like 2 turns later and they have a completely full board, and they've managed to like draw 7 or 8 cards in hand at that point. Like it's just completely obnoxious what the deck is capable of doing. And I just
Don't you dare interrupt me, kid.
it's like from the control deck perspective, like how many 2-for-1s do you want to get when you're playing against a kind of aggro deck that has a million 2-for-1s built into it? Like it's just crazy to me.
Weapon roulette. By his hammer.
All right, but let's try and get this Jax off the board. Not too much problem here, but we should be able to play our Jax next turn and then pop off with him. And so we're a little bit far behind in terms of leveling up our Jax, right? He's got 6 on his Jax at this point, right? 8 at this point. So we need things to kind of turn around a little bit, but our Jax is going to get pretty stacked this turn with the triple forges coming onto him.
Honoring Acacia by pounding bad guys.
This is going to be another fish fight. Really? You say, how many of those do you got? Now the question to me is like, do we really want to tie in both of these time and dedications? I'm kind of okay with getting, you know, like pretty invested into this Jax. Like the thing that you worried about is going to be like a Buried in Ice coming in, right? And having your you know, triple forged equipment get blown up by Buried in Ice doesn't feel very good.
Let me change up my
But the thing that I'm kind of trying to keep in the back of my head is we do still have the single forged Fischl Whack in hand. And if we do manage to pick up Ornn at some point, it's going to be able to be that, you know, strong equipment that we need. And so we have to get something happening now. Like our Jax is so far behind, we need to start getting these level ups on him. And we should be able to level up our Jax on this next attack, assuming we don't get buried in the ice right here. And then even if we do get buried, we can still follow up with a blocker in the combat cook. All right, this is a little worrisome. Like, if we get buried and have all of our equipment involved, then it's gonna it's gonna be painful. But I'm just trying to envision this open attack on the next turn as being what we need, and then we can follow up with the Buried in Ice there. So I don't really want to block here with our equipped units. Like if we have like
You know.
Clumsy work.
this one's fine. Because if we don't get the level up on our next turn, we're just so far behind.
by his hammer.
Where are we even at? Like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 16, 18?
Clumsy work.
If you're gonna sit down,
Let me focus.
So maybe we do this. The combat trick to worry about here is going to be Three Sisters, right?
You're gonna get burned.
All right, fine. The thing I'm kind of hoping for in this space is we'll just open attack next turn with both of our weapon masters. He'll play Ornn, and then we get to Buried in Ice. Like, I think that's a way that we can legitimately come back in this one. So we'll see how that goes. You know, we'll see how that goes. I was gonna say, check out my harsh winds.
For Acacia! And you know what? Also for me!
Yep.
Hope you stretch.
So I mean, what are the chances that we really just get like zinged on this next turn? Like the real pain point in this attack is that he doesn't have to like add anything more to the board. He's free to just open attack on the next turn. I think we're stuck just trying to play Buried in Ice on this turn. You know, it's not that bad in the sense that if he, you know, when all of these units come back in, they are going to do the improvises, but he's already at 20, so it's not like he's going to you know, be getting a super amount of healing on this incoming round of improvise units, and so I think this is what it has to be. It just doesn't feel like the kind of turn to where he's like, okay, I'm gonna play Ornn and then attack, right? This is a space to where he's just open attacking all the time. Ooh. So that's only -7. We could put the Omen Hawk in front. The thing with this is it still feels like a continuation of that Three Sisters,
Gotta sharpen my lamp.
but oh, it's not Three Sisters. But I just don't feel like we can win this game without Jax on the board next turn. And so, I mean, if this is a spot that requires a Jax, then, you know, fine. You know, if we end up dropping this and dying to a Sky Shard, whatever it's called, fine. I just don't think we can ever win this game without Jax on the board next turn. So we just have to make him have it, right? If you're in this spot to where you just can't beat a card, then just don't play around it, right? Just take it off the table of things you have to worry about. So feels like there's about to be a trick incoming. We don't have anything else to do. It's gonna take us down. GG. And so, not a bad set of battles, a good set of games. I think the biggest takeaway I've had from this, I've been like on it for the majority of this event. Like, let's be real. Like during the last open, I was just saying, you know, this is not an event to not bring Janna. The Warden of the Tribes decks against Janna like have a positive matchup on the stats sites, but that's not necessarily reflective of A, the people that are actually good at playing Nyla Janna, and then B, the ones that are running through the open. Like, I'm really curious right now the number of people that are running the Nyla Janna deck that has like the Brash package with that 1-drop and the Tide Finder, whatever it's called, compared to the win rate of the people playing the one with the Sunken Temple in and with the Wizened Helmsman in it, because the win rates between those two are going to look wildly different, and also I would contest that given the kind of Sunken Temple is the new breakthrough style of deck, that the higher quality players are also playing that version. And so when you go and look at a stats site like runeterra.ar, like we're on here, when you go and look at a site like Legna's site at llrstats.com, it doesn't like break any of that down and you can't see any of those differences. And so it's like very easy to go and look at the site and do this, right? Like, okay, well, I'm on the stats site here. Let's click on the stats button. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to look at Nyla Janna. And then over here, it has the worst matchups on the right. You're like, oh, cool. There's a Darius, Gnar, and a Jax Ornn. We're playing those. We just need to pick up one of these decks we've been playing out here, right? A Teemo or an Elites or something, and we're going to be off to the races. But again, like I kind of contest that whenever there's kind of like newer players or the players that are just pushing into Masters and they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to take the number one deck on the list and go play it. They kind of hamper the win rate. And then when you see things like that, it all kind of brings it down. At the end of the day, I'm getting long-winded on this. I don't think the matchups against the Janna decks are as bad as stated here. Like, I think it's much more of a coin flip for Darius, Gnar, and Jax Ornn. And I feel like we should probably just be playing it. And so I think that the real answer to those decks is probably Scouts. Like I think Scouts feels like the one that is actually legitimately good against those, and it does perform better against the Sunken Temple versions because they're playing such expensive cards. Like they play their Sunken Temple, then you just kill them with Champion Strength. And so I think that's probably a little bit more in tune than these Darius decks, but it's tough to say. And so, but yeah, I'm getting long-winded. At the end of the last open, that was what we said. You should just be playing Janna. It's definitely a bring Janna, ban Janna in some form, and we just didn't do any of that. Now with this one, I've just got to be like, okay, fuck it. Fine. We have to bring Janna, ban Janna, and I'm actually going to do it this time. And so that's our biggest takeaway from this event. Otherwise, as far as these decks go, I'm still reasonably happy with all of them. Samira Gnar was fine. We did have that one copy of Samira. I'm glad she really showed up and came to the party and did a lot of work. I still feel pretty good about this singular copy. It's pretty safe to play. I think it's better than a lot of the other stuff that you could be doing. As far as Jax Ornn goes, again, I'm happy with this list. I like playing the stuff like Wildclaw's Ferocity. I think this plays out quite nicely. And then with Scouts, we added in the Scholarly Pioneer, another card that we were quite happy with. And so, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.